John Hayes straightened his tie and took a deep breath. Through the viewport, he could see the massive council station hanging in space like a glittering jewel. After 5 years of preparation, humanity was finally getting its chance to join the Galactic Council. "Ready, sir?" asked Olivia Garcia, adjusting her uniform sleeve. As the military attaché, she looked uncomfortable in diplomatic attire. "As ready as anyone can be to represent 8 billion humans," Hayes replied with a small smile. He looked at his small team, 5 humans against a universe of alien civilizations. Their shuttle docked with a gentle bump. When the doors opened, 2 tall blue-skinned aliens waited for them. "Ambassador Hayes," said the taller one, "I am Keela, your guide. The council awaits." Hayes nodded. "We appreciate your welcome." Keela led them through curved hallways filled with aliens of all shapes and sizes. Some had too many eyes. Others seemed to float rather than walk. Hayes had studied the major council species, but seeing them in person made his head spin. After passing through several security checkpoints, they reached massive double doors carved with symbols from 100 worlds. "The council chamber," Keela announced. "You will be called soon." Hayes looked at his team. Susan Miller, their xenobiologist, was already taking notes. Alan Powell, the neuroscientist, looked pale but determined. Kevin Wright, their economic analyst, kept checking his datapad. And Diana White, their cultural expert, was busy observing every passing alien. "Remember," Hayes told them quietly, "we're here to learn and connect. Earth needs this alliance." The doors swung open, revealing an enormous room. 300 representatives from across the galaxy sat in rising tiers around a central speaking platform. The ceiling displayed a perfect recreation of the galactic core, swirling with stars and cosmic dust. "Humans of Earth," announced a voice, "you may enter." Hayes led his team to the platform. The silence felt heavy as thousands of alien eyes studied them. A tall, gray-skinned alien with 4 arms stood from the highest tier. "I am Elder Zix Troll of the Valdurian Empire, Council Speaker. We welcome Earth's representatives." Hayes stepped forward. "Honored Elder, respected council members, we bring greetings from Earth and gratitude for this historic opportunity." He activated his presentation, showing Earth's achievements, their first steps into space, their recent colony on Mars, their developing faster-than-light drive. That's when he heard it. A laugh. Not human laughter, but unmistakable all the same. Elder Zix Troll made a sound like rocks in a blender. "Forgive me, Ambassador, but your achievements are quaint." More laughter spread through the chamber. A purple-skinned delegate stood up. "They're still using ion propulsion for local travel. My species mastered that technology before we discovered fire." "And look at their communication systems," called another. "Still relying on quantum entanglement with stabilizer fields. How charmingly primitive." Hayes felt his face grow hot. Garcia tensed beside him, her hand instinctively moving toward where her sidearm would normally be. "Their biological structure is so fragile," noted a floating orb-like being. "Single-layer skin, exposed sensory organs, and a skeleton made of calcium. They're practically walking injuries." "And their lifespans," hooted another. "Barely a century if they're lucky. How do they learn anything useful in such a short time?" The mockery continued. Some delegates didn't even try to hide their amusement. Others simply looked at the humans with pity. Hayes' knuckles turned white as he gripped the edge of the podium. His team shifted uncomfortably behind him. Susan Miller looked close to tears, while Alan Powell stared at the floor. The council, clearly expecting Hayes to either storm out or beg for acceptance, grew quieter, waiting for his response. Hayes slowly raised his hand, his face calm despite the humiliation. "Elder Zix Troll," he said, his voice steady, "with your permission, I would like to respond to the council's observations." The elder gestured with 2 of his 4 arms. "By all means, Ambassador, enlighten us." No one noticed the small smile forming at the corner of Hayes' mouth as he reached for his datapad. The council chamber remained quiet as John Hayes stepped forward. The laughter had died down, but smug smiles still decorated alien faces throughout the room. "Honorable Elder Zixtral," Hayes said calmly, "before I respond, may I access the council's information network?" The elder looked surprised. "An unusual request, but granted, though I fail to see how our database will help your situation." A holographic terminal appeared before Hayes. He connected his simple human datapad to it, his fingers moving quickly across the screen. "First," Hayes said, his voice echoing in the chamber, "I'd like to address the timeline of human development." The giant display behind him lit up with a chart showing technological progress across different species. The aliens' advancement lines moved steadily upward over thousands of years. The human line started much later but shot upward at a shocking angle. "As you can see," Hayes continued, "humans went from first powered flight to landing on our moon in just 66 years. From discovering radio to developing quantum communications in under 150 years. Murmurs spread through the chamber. A blue-skinned delegate stood up. "Quick progress from a low starting point is hardly impressive." Hayes nodded. "Fair point. But consider this." He touched his pad again, and the display changed to show adaptation rates. When faced with obstacles, the average council species takes 3 generations to implement significant technological changes. Humans do it within a single generation. The chamber grew quieter. Some delegates leaned forward. "Dr. Miller, would you share your findings?" Hayes asked. Susan Miller stepped forward, no longer intimidated. "My analysis of council biological records shows something fascinating. Most spacefaring species evolved in stable environments, with few predators and steady resources." She displayed comparative brain scans. "Your neural pathways favor careful, methodical thinking. Very efficient for steady progress." She switched to human brain scans. "Our brains, however, formed under constant environmental changes and threats. We're literally wired to think faster under pressure. What you see as primitive, we see as adaptable." A reptilian delegate hissed. "Perhaps this explains their violent tendencies." Hayes nodded. "We don't deny our flaws. Humanity has made terrible mistakes, but each disaster taught us something." His display showed Earth's environmental collapse and subsequent rapid restoration. 50 years from our worst pollution crisis to developing atmospheric scrubbers now used on 12 council worlds. The mood in the chamber shifted. Some delegates whispered to each other. Others looked troubled. "You mock our calcium skeletons," Hayes continued, "yet our medical database shows humans recover from bone injuries 3 times faster than the council average. Our fragile bodies can adapt to more extreme gravity conditions than 70% of council species." He turned to his economic analyst. "Kevin, please explain what we found in the trade networks." Kevin Wright cleared his throat. "We analyzed council economic patterns. Your stable, controlled markets produce predictable growth, but human markets, chaotic as they are, produce twice the innovation rate during crisis." Elder Zixtral's upper arms crossed. "This is all very interesting, Ambassador, but it doesn't change your technological inferiority." Hayes smiled. "About that." He pressed his datapad one more time. The chamber display filled with detailed council military protocols and classified ship designs. Things no human should have access to. Gasps echoed through the chamber. Elder Zixtral stood up straight, all 4 arms tensed. "How did you obtain this information?" "These are protected by our highest security measures." Hayes shrugged. "The same encryption you've used for 300 years. It took our code breakers 3 months to break it." He paused as shocked whispers spread. "Which brings me to my most important point." The chamber fell completely silent as everyone realized this supposedly primitive species had been reading their secret communications all along. "We've known about the council for much longer than you've known about us," Hayes said quietly. And that was when the real diplomacy began. The council chamber erupted in chaos. Delegates shouted questions and demands. Security officers moved closer to the human team. Elder Zixtral raised all 4 hands for silence, but it took several minutes before order returned. "Explain yourself, Ambassador Hayes," the elder demanded, his voice low and dangerous. "You claim your species has been spying on council communications. Such actions could be considered an act of war." Hayes remained calm. "Not spying, Elder. Learning. Preparing. Your deep space beacons have been broadcasting unencrypted data for centuries. We simply listened." He gestured to his team. "Dr. Powell, please share your findings." Alan Powell stepped forward with renewed confidence. The neuroscientist pulled up brain scan comparisons on the main display. Council species evolved in stable environments, leading to steady, careful thinking, Powell explained. Humans evolved through ice ages, floods, and constant disasters. Our brains formed differently. He pointed to highlighted areas. When council species face stress, these areas shut down. When humans face stress, these areas light up. "What does this mean?" asked a plant-like delegate. "It means we think better under pressure," Powell said simply. "Where most species freeze or retreat during crisis, humans adapt and solve problems faster." Hayes took over again. "Council records show most of your species took between 10,000 and 50,000 years to develop spaceflight after discovering electricity. Humans did it in less than 200 years. "Because you're reckless," called out a delegate. "Perhaps," Hayes admitted, "but also because we faced problems differently. Every major human advance came from crisis. World wars led to computers and atomic energy. Climate disasters led to environmental engineering that your own worlds now use." He tapped his pad, and the display showed Earth's history of natural disasters and conflicts, each followed by technological leaps. "You see our short lives as a weakness," Hayes continued. "We see them as motivation. We don't have centuries to solve problems, so we work faster." The chamber had grown quiet now. The mocking smiles were gone. 10 years ago, we detected your first probes at the edge of our solar system," Hayes revealed. "We knew then that we weren't alone. Rather than announce our discovery, we listened and learned. We studied your languages, your technology, your politics." Elder Zixtral's 4 hands gripped his podium. "Impossible. Our stealth technology is based on principles our physicists theorized a century ago." Hayes finished for him. "Dr. Miller, please explain what we found." Susan Miller displayed biological scans of several council species. "We noticed something strange in your evolutionary patterns. Most council species show remarkably similar development curves, despite evolving on different worlds." Gasps spread through the chamber. Some older delegates looked away uncomfortably. "Almost as if," Miller continued, "your evolution was guided somehow. Humans, however, show a completely natural, chaotic evolutionary path. We wonder if this explains our different approach to problems." Hayes watched the reaction carefully. The silence confirmed his suspicion. This was information even most council members didn't know. "What exactly are you implying, Ambassador?" asked Elder Zixtral, his voice suddenly cautious. "Just making observations, Elder," Hayes replied. "But it does make us wonder who the truly primitive species might be, those who developed naturally or those who were helped along." The chamber remained deathly quiet. Hayes could feel the shift in the room. The mockery was completely gone now, replaced by uncertainty and, from some, fear. Olivia Garcia stepped closer to Hayes and whispered, "They're talking about calling in security ships. Our monitors are picking up increased communications." Hayes nodded slightly. It was time for the next phase. "Elder Zixtral," he said loudly, "before your security fleet arrives, there's something else you should know about humans." The elder's eyes widened in shock. He hadn't given any visible order for security. "We always have a backup plan," Hayes said. Elder Zixtral tried to hide his surprise, but the twitching of his lower arms gave him away. I don't know what you mean, Ambassador. No security ships have been called. Hayes smiled politely. My military attaché would disagree. He nodded to Olivia Garcia, who stepped forward. Within the last 60 seconds, encrypted signals were sent to the Voldurian fleet stationed in the Proxima sector. Garcia stated, Standard Council protocol for potential security threats. The fleet has changed course and will arrive in approximately 17 minutes. Stunned silence filled the chamber. Many delegates looked at their own communication devices, confirming what should have been impossible for humans to know. Lieutenant Garcia, Hayes continued, please show the Council what we call the contingency. Garcia activated her datapad. The main display changed to show the solar system, with Earth at its center. As she zoomed out, hundreds of small red dots appeared throughout the asteroid belt and near the gas giants. For the past 8 years, we've been building these, Garcia explained. Defensive installations designed specifically to counter Council technology. She highlighted one of the dots and expanded it to show a detailed schematic. This is a gravity disruption field generator. It creates localized distortions that disable your drive systems without affecting human ships. She switched to another schematic. This is a targeted signal jammer calibrated to Council communication frequencies. And this, she continued, showing a third design, is an automated defense platform with shields designed to withstand your standard weapons. The Council representatives stared in disbelief. These were specific countermeasures against technologies that humans shouldn't even understand, let alone be able to defend against. But that's not possible, argued a small, furry delegate. Your technological level couldn't produce these systems. 8 years ago, you would have been right, Hayes acknowledged. But remember what Dr. Powell explained about human stress responses. When we discovered we weren't alone, our best scientists worked around the clock. They reverse-engineered technology from your probe signals and made remarkable leads. You're bluffing, Elder Zixtral said, but his voice lacked conviction. Hayes shrugged. Perhaps, or perhaps you could ask the scout ship your people sent to Mars last year. The one that mysteriously lost power and had to be rescued. That was an early test of our gravity disruptors. The Elder's eyes widened. That incident had been classified at the highest levels. We came in peace, Hayes continued, his voice firm but not threatening. We hoped for acceptance but prepared for rejection. Humanity has faced extinction-level threats throughout its development. We don't face new ones unprepared. An older delegate with silvery skin stood up. Why reveal this now? You could have kept your advantage secret. Because we don't want advantages. We want partnership, Hayes replied. You mocked us for our weaknesses, but have failed to recognize our strengths. We don't seek conflict. We seek respect. Kevin Wright stepped forward, holding his economic datapad. Our analysis suggests that human innovation combined with Council stability could solve problems neither of us can handle alone. The resource shortages in the Orion sector that Council economists have struggled with for decades. Our model solved them in weeks. Diana White, their cultural expert, added, human creativity thrives on diversity and disagreement. What looks like chaos to you creates resilience we all need. Hayes watched as the mood in the chamber shifted again. Fear was giving way to curiosity. Mockery had been replaced by cautious respect. Ambassador Hayes, Elder Zixtral said slowly, I believe we have misjudged your species. That's okay, Elder, Hayes replied with a genuine smile. First contact is always difficult. The question is, where do we go from here? The Elder looked around the chamber, seeing nods from many delegates. Perhaps we should recall our security fleet and continue this conversation more productively. Hayes nodded. I think that would be wise. After all, we have much to learn from each other. And in that moment, the relationship between humanity and the galaxy changed forever. The Council chamber had transformed. Where once there was mockery, now delegates leaned forward with interest. Security officers had stepped back, and the emergency fleet had been recalled. Before we discuss partnership, Hayes said, I'd like to share one more presentation. We call it the historical record. He nodded to Diana White, who stepped forward with her cultural data. The display changed to show Earth's history. Throughout human history, White explained, technologically superior groups often underestimated primitive ones. The results were surprising. The screen showed ancient battles and cultural exchanges. The Roman Empire fell to tribes they called barbarians. European colonizers with advanced weapons were defeated by indigenous tactics. Military superpowers were stopped by farmers with simple tools but better knowledge of their land. She highlighted key moments of history. Being technically advanced doesn't guarantee victory. Adaptation matters more. Elder Zixtral tilted his head. An interesting observation, but how does this apply to our current situation? Hayes smiled. Because history is repeating itself right now. You saw our technology as primitive, our biology as weak, our lifespans as short. But you missed what these challenges created. A species that adapts faster than any in the Council. Kevin Wright displayed economic charts. Council worlds use controlled economies that provide stability but slow innovation. Human economies are messy and competitive, which can cause problems but drives faster advancement. The charts showed innovation rates. The human line climbed at nearly twice the angle of Council species. Your systems are linear, Wright explained. Ours are exponential. If current trends continue, human technology will match Council standards within 30 years, not the 3 centuries your models predicted. Murmurs spread through the chamber. A delegate stood up. This cannot be accurate. Our scientists have studied technological development patterns for millennia. Yes, Hayes agreed, but they studied species with similar development patterns. He paused, which brings us to our most controversial finding. Susan Miller returned to the platform and displayed evolutionary charts of several Council races. We noticed something strange when studying Council biological records. Most spacefaring species show remarkably similar development curves. She highlighted key genetic markers. These similarities suggest external influence, as if someone guided your evolution. The chamber erupted. Many delegates shouted denials, but Hayes noticed the oldest members remained silent, their expressions unreadable. By contrast, Miller continued once the noise subsided. Human development shows a natural, chaotic pattern with rapid adaptations to changing conditions. We evolved without guidance. Elder Zixtral's 4 hands gripped his podium. These are dangerous accusations, Ambassador. Not accusations, Hayes corrected. Observations. We don't know what they mean. But they might explain why you find humans so unpredictable. Alan Powell added, it may also explain why humans solve problems differently. We weren't programmed to think along certain paths. The oldest council member, a small being whose age was measured in millennia, slowly stood up. The chamber immediately fell silent. I am Elder Crom, the ancient being said, its voice barely above a whisper. What the humans suggest is not entirely wrong. Shock rippled through the younger delegates. Long before most of your species reached the stars, Elder Crom continued, there were guides. They are gone now, but their influence remains. Hayes kept his face neutral, though inside he was stunned. They had suspected, but never expected confirmation. So, Hayes said carefully, perhaps humans represent something unique, a truly independent evolutionary path. Elder Zixtral stared at Elder Crom, then slowly turned back to Hayes. It seems, Ambassador, the humans may have more to offer the Council than we realized. Hayes nodded. And perhaps the Council has knowledge humans need to avoid mistakes you've already overcome. Where does this leave us? Asked a delegate. At the beginning, Hayes replied with a smile. But this time, as equals seeking to learn from each other rather than judge. Elder Zixtral studied Hayes for a long moment. Ambassador Hayes, I believe your species has earned a unique opportunity. Please prepare your diplomatic proposal. The Council called for a short break. Hayes and his team gathered in a small room off the main chamber to prepare their proposal. "They're actually listening to us now," Susan Miller said, still looking surprised. "From mockery to respect in 3 hours," Alan Powell said with a shake of his head. "Only humans could manage that." Hayes smiled. "Let's not waste this opportunity. We need a proposal that benefits everyone." He turned to Diana White. "Diana, you've studied their cultures. What approach will work best?" White thought for a moment. "They value stability and order. Their traditional way of bringing in new species is as students, not partners. We need to show them a third way." Hayes nodded. "Kevin, what about economics?" Kevin Wright pulled up data on his pad. "Their markets are struggling in several sectors. They need innovation but fear chaos. We can offer controlled disruption, new ideas within stable frameworks." "Perfect," Hayes said. "Let's put it all together." When they returned to the chamber, the mood had changed completely. Gone were the smirks and whispers. Now delegates watched with serious attention as Hayes approached the central platform. "Honored Council," Hayes began, "humans come before you not seeking approval, but partnership." He activated his presentation, showing a new type of relationship diagram. "We propose something that hasn't been tried before, integration based on complementary strengths." The display showed how human adaptability could work alongside council stability. Each section highlighted specific benefits. In medicine, Susan Miller explained, "Our rapid healing and stress responses could help develop treatments for conditions that have puzzled council doctors for centuries." Alan Powell added, "Our different brain structures could lead to breakthroughs in artificial intelligence and neural networks." In economics, Kevin Wright continued, "Human market systems could revitalize stagnant sectors, while council oversight prevents the worst excesses of our competitive approach." Diana White highlighted cultural exchange potential. "Human art constantly reinvents itself, creating new forms every few decades. This creative spirit could inspire council worlds, while your stability helps preserve the best of what we create." Hayes watched the reactions carefully. Many delegates were nodding thoughtfully. Others looked skeptical but interested. "Most importantly," Hayes continued, "we propose equal exchange. Not humans as students or council as teachers, but true partners learning from each other's strengths." Elder Zixtral studied the proposal. "This is unconventional. Our protocols for integrating new species assume the council guides development." "With respect, Elder," Hayes replied, "those protocols were designed for species with similar evolutionary paths to your own. Humans developed differently. Traditional approaches won't work for us." The elder turned to Elder Crom. "What does the oldest among us think?" The ancient being's eyes seemed to look far beyond the chamber walls. "In all my centuries, I have never seen a proposal like this. But perhaps that is exactly what we need." Elder Crom's gaze focused on Hayes. "The council has grown. Comfortable. Some might say stagnant. Perhaps these humans with their chaotic energy are exactly the catalyst we need." Elder Zixtral seemed to consider this. "You mocked us earlier for our slow, careful thinking. Yet now you seek our stability." Hayes smiled. "Because both approaches have value. Alone, humans move too quickly and make mistakes. Alone, the council moves too slowly and misses opportunities. Together, we could find a better balance." "And your defensive network?" the elder asked. "The contingency, as you called it, will remain in place until trust is established," Hayes answered honestly. "But we hope it will never be needed." The chamber fell silent as the council considered the proposal. Hayes stood calmly, though his heart pounded in his chest. Earth's future hung in the balance. Finally, Elder Zixtral spoke. "Ambassador Hayes, when you first stood before us, we saw only weakness. Now we see potential. The council needs time to consider all aspects of your proposal, but I believe we can work toward this partnership." The elder's 4 arms moved in a formal gesture. "Let it be recorded that on this day, the relationship between humanity and the Galactic Council entered a new phase. one based not on patronage, but on mutual respect. Hayes bowed slightly. That is all we ever wanted, Elder. And so began what would later be called the Hayes Doctrine, a revolutionary approach to interspecies relations that would change the galaxy forever. 6 months later, John Hayes stood at the viewing window of the new human embassy on the Council Station. The massive structure of glass and metal had been built in record time, a physical symbol of the changing relationship between humanity and the Galactic Council. "Quite a view, isn't it?" said a familiar voice. Hayes turned to see Elder Zixtral approaching. No longer was there mockery in those four-armed gestures, but genuine respect. "Elder," Hayes greeted him warmly. "I was just admiring the work of our joint engineering teams. The embassy combines council materials with human design principles. Much like our new relationship," the Elder observed. "Different approaches creating something neither could build alone." In the 6 months since the confrontation in the council chamber, remarkable changes had swept through galactic society. Human scientists now worked alongside council experts on dozens of worlds. Council teachers studied Earth's history and culture, while human students learned from ancient galactic knowledge. "The Hayes Doctrine has been more successful than anyone predicted," Zixtral said, using the term that had become common throughout the galaxy. "Even species that have been council members for centuries are adopting aspects of it." "Sometimes fresh eyes see solutions that experience misses," Hayes replied. "And sometimes ancient wisdom prevents newcomers from making terrible mistakes." They walked together toward the conference room where Hayes' team waited. Susan Miller was now leading a joint biology project that had already made breakthroughs in treating genetic diseases. Alan Powell had established a neural research center that combined human and council approaches to consciousness. Kevin Wright advised the council's economic committee, while Diana White helped develop new cultural exchange programs. "There is something I've been meaning to ask you, Ambassador," the Elder said as they walked. "How much of your presentation that day was true? Could your contingency system really have defended Earth against our fleet?" Hayes smiled. "Some of it would have worked. Some was educated guessing. And some," he admitted, "was strategic bluffing." The Elder's laugh sounded like stones tumbling down a hill. "I suspected as much. A very human approach. Confidence beyond your capabilities." "Sometimes," Hayes said, "the appearance of strength is more important than strength itself. But now we have something better than either: mutual respect." They entered the conference room, where the original diplomatic team had gathered to celebrate 6 months of successful partnership. Olivia Garcia raised a glass as they entered. To the ambassador who turned mockery into alliance, she toasted. As glasses clinked, a young council aide rushed into the room, looking excited. "Ambassador Hayes, Elder Zixtral." The aide handed them both data pads. "The long-range sensors have detected something extraordinary. Signals from beyond the council's known space." Hayes looked at the readings. "A new civilization." "Yes," the aide confirmed. "One that even the council has never encountered before. The Elders are requesting your team specifically to lead the first contact mission." Hayes looked at his team in surprise. "Us? Why?" Elder Zixtral placed one hand on Hayes' shoulder. "Because your approach succeeded where our traditional methods might have failed. The council believes your human perspective might be valuable for this new encounter." Hayes considered this for a moment, then nodded. "We would be honored, Elder. When do we leave?" 3 days, the Elder replied. "The diplomatic ship is being prepared now." Later that evening, Hayes stood alone at the embassy window again, looking out at the stars. 6 months ago, he had stood before the council as a representative of a mocked species. Now humans were respected partners helping to shape galactic policy. He thought about the new civilization waiting beyond known space. Would they be friends or enemies, advanced or developing? There was no way to know. But Earth would face this new frontier not as a lonely planet, but as part of a galactic community. Hayes smiled as he watched the stars. They seemed to shine differently now, their light carrying new possibilities throughout the cosmos that had been shaken by a single human diplomat's reply to mockery. Humanity's greatest journey was just beginning.